out this dump. Alright, we're live. What's going on, guys? Go Rodeo Gaming here, back with another video. Today I thought I'd do questions and answers when it comes to the railroad stuff. Former Union Pacific conductor, if you're not familiar with my channel. Been doing a lot of railroad type gaming, Transport Fever, different types of train simulators. So here we are in Transport Fever 2, editing a new map for you guys. At the same time, I wanted to answer some railroad questions, so throw them into the chat. Might take a little while to get some questions going, so I'll just kind of bounce around this new map of mine into the meantime. Let's see, not much going on. I'm just in the building phase. This map is ginormous, by the way. This is by far the biggest map I've ever made. So I'll kind of show you guys until we get some questions rolling. What's going on here? So this is the far, we'll call it the north end of one side of the map. We got a line right here, single track with sidings through the desert. The theme of this map is Western railroading. So, conglomerate of, California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, Oregon, just all those type of things come out this way. But it is a fictional map, but it has components from all different parts of the Western railroading scene. Like as you'll see over here, it's kind of like a high desert scene right here, where you might find in like Arizona, New Mexico. And then this would be my Tehachapi loop basically for this map. Thought it was fitting to put it in the desert, whereas in real life it's kind of in the mountains. It's a little different here. We'll come over this way, and this is kind of the main yard. So this route has three different main railroads. Okay, it's supposed to be the Santa Fe, the UP, and the Southern Pacific. This is 1985, so those were kind of the big three out in the west. So it's not necessarily named those, right? I just put Class 1 Railroad number 2, Class Railroad number 3, Class 1 Railroad number 1, and then there's two separate subdivisions for Class Railroad number 1. So you plug in whatever you want. This could be the SP, this could be the UP, this could be the Santa Fe, whatever you want. This portion of the map is themed more off of the Santa Fe, so that's what I'm going for right now. Got some cities. This is the most kind of populated area of the map, and then we have another portal going to the Midwest. So if you're familiar with my maps, I use basically a bare station and freestyle industries to simulate a portal, or as if the map continued on, like in real life. So we'll come back this way. No railroad questions in the chat quite yet. People are starting to hop on a little bit. Got a nice kind of old school Y with a station at the end, so you can use it. Got an engine facility, and we got a passenger, a little passenger sub that comes off here in the town, and it connects with the airport. So as of right now, there's not like a freeway system or a road system that connects different populations, because this map is more kind of wide open and spread out when it comes to the cities and all that. So I think we're going to utilize airports in this one for most of the passengers. Now you can always work in passenger trains I should say, on your own map if you decide to download this when it comes out. Hoping to have this map come out probably next Friday. So week and a half from now. Something I did with this was pretty neat is I got the cargo expansion. So we have waste. So we have the trucks. It looks like the trucks come here, deliver all the waste to the train, which the waste is produced by the cities, obviously. Then they get hauled over this route out to the dump, waste management, whatever you want to call it out here. So this is a cool new thought that I'm incorporating to this map. So I'm going to try to think of a few other things like that. Alright, so let's go to the rest of the map. So this would be heading west, basically. We're heading through the desert, right? Light vegetation. It's the way it's supposed to be. Different area of the maps look like different areas of the west. The western United States. It's double tracked on this themed Santa Fe portion of the line. That's because they had double track. I'm going to take a drink here real quick. Alright. So here we have a junction, and we have another subdivision that splits off. This is simulated, this is what the UP is simulated to be. Like I said, it doesn't have to be the UP that comes off this route when you play this map, but this is how I simulated it. And we got a grade that climbs up to a summit. This subdivision right here is themed off of the Union Pacific's SEMA subdivision, which runs from Yermo, California, which is where I used to work out of, to Las Vegas, Nevada. Pretty steep grade. Grade was comparable to main tracks 1 and 2 on the Cajon Pass. And it's pretty long too. It basically winds up the side of this mountainous kind of valley. Some cool Joshua trees and some vegetation that you don't typically see in the lowland deserts that is out here. So I just tried to recreate that. Then we got the actual town of SEMA would be at this summit over here. We got a siding and it actually goes to triple track. So we're heading towards Vegas right now. So we're heading north. This would be heading south. So you climb up to the top of this summit and you come down the backside. It's all single track with sidings. It's good stuff. And down here you would have a famous Fallout, I think it was Fallout 2 or Fallout 3, town of Nipton, California. Pretty famous in some movies, stuff like that. Dry lake bed. If you had the 15 freeway, it would come off this mountain down, kind of parallel the railroad. The railroad's got one last little grade coming up here before dropping down into Las Vegas. Once again, we got an airport, so you can fly planes from there to there. This will be kind of like the main hub for the airports on the map. So back to Vegas. Haven't done any detail over here when it comes to scenery. That'll change here. I'm just kind of bouncing around. I don't do all the scenery at once. I don't do all the track lane at once. I just kind of do whatever I feel like doing at the moment, or else I get a little burned out. So we climb out of Las Vegas, and that goes towards North Platte, going north in the real world. Come back this way. What's nice is that it's very open. Okay, so there's, if you guys want to add cities, you can. If you want to add more industries, you can. It's very open world with plenty to do as it comes. Up here, we'll go into that part here a little bit later. We're going to continue heading, this would be west in real life. Come up through here. Kind of wanted to theme this off Afton Canyon. This is on the UP SEMA sub, but it's a pretty unique little canyon with a lot of springs, and the track kind of hugs the cliffs. It's almost like a really small version of a Grand Canyon or something like it. Then we get out here up on top, get a little bit more vegetation, more of a high desert feel. Like I said, it's very open, so there's plenty of room to do lots of stuff, not even train related. And then we head down here, kind of coming off a bluff, flattens out, and then we drop down again. So these are some scenes from Arizona, New Mexico, right? This kind of idea. Still running west. This main subdivision's all double track. It's got signals fairly often so that you can run a lot of trains back to back going both directions. We got the North American Bridge Pack going. These things are a must if you want to make any kind of American routes. Then we come down and around this mountain right here, we got another kind of junction. This would be where the Southern Pacific would come onto this main line. We have a little yard right here. I'll explain that in a bit. And then we got what you can find in some places where just a couple spur tracks where you might throw some tank cars in there or some box cars or some center beams, and then you have trucks that pull up and literally offload from it, but it doesn't belong to any business in particular. It's just more of an offloading point. So now we'll go up the SP. Like I said, it doesn't have to be one railroad or another. I'm just theming it off of a certain railroad from the west. So in SP fashion, it's single track with sidings. Start climbing up here. This would be like a northern Nevada switching to an Oregon style mountains way up high with more of a dry forest down here. Lower, as you can see, smaller trees, a little bit drier looking. We have a siding here. It's a pretty long siding. You should be able to fit two good sized trains into the siding going both directions. It's just to help the line not get so clogged up. But keeping the Southern Pacific theme of being single track. Get up here, got a pretty cool bridge going across. Then we reach the summit, and then we come into what I would say is Northern California, Oregon, maybe a little bit of Washington feel. Got a big mountain right here. I named this town Shasta just because this looked a little bit like Mount Shasta to me. More exaggerated, but I like it. So scenery's not done yet. Everything is not. There isn't one part of this map that's like completely done besides maybe the routes and the sidings. This would be the SP's main yard, locomotives yard. Over here we got some lumber mills, so we'll have some little branch lines that run up to some logging camps here and there. Mom's Maniacs. Hello, how's it going? This is a railroad Q&A, so if anybody's got any questions, throw them in below. Just figured I'd kind of theme this session after that, so throw in your railroad questions, and in the meantime, I will keep showing you guys this new map of mine. Now, since there's a lot of tree assets up here, my game runs a little slow, so that's why it's a little glitchy on me. So, this will eventually be a lake. It'll be a little bit more treed in down here. I'll probably have a logging camp up in here. Maybe something over there. There'll definitely be something right here. So these valleys are meant to be kind of meadowy, right? You got the mountains, and then you got the lower meadows. And then we got our portal. So let's say that goes to Portland, right? So heading north through the mountains. So that's what that's all about. If you guys are just joining us, just showing this is a new map I'm working on. It's massive. So now we will go back down grade out to the kind of main route of this map. So we got this yard here. The main line continues this direction, but we have a branch line that comes off here. I'll show you that. You notice we got a dry lake or a salty looking lake. That's because we have an industry down here that's supposed to produce, let's say, like a salt or a limestone or soda ash or something you would find on these dry lake beds, or maybe not dry lake beds would be the right word, but just some of these lower lakes that aren't your typical lake where they do a lot of mining. So this is kind of the mine for that. It takes fuel and tools here. It takes coal. I'll show you the coal district. The coal district's probably my favorite of this map. It's not done yet by any means, but it looks pretty good. And then we got our main kind of yard. So we'll have a local that comes out of here, gives them traditional freight. You'll be loading material to bring out, and then we will be dropping off coal so that the mine can operate. So this is supposed to be like the Great Salt Lake, right? There's mines on that. Or it's supposed to be like Trona, like the mines in Trona. It's basically what this is, just combined out in the middle of nowhere. So then we get back to the main line. That's why this yard is here, so that we can run a local down into here to deliver fuel and tools. So you can drop off right here. Then we also have this unloading platform here as well. So we'll probably have one or two locals running out of here servicing this. I might add some more stuff like this periodically through the routes, but we'll see. I'm trying to give you guys a really big map, like a realistic sized railroad, realistic sized main lines. But we'll see. I don't want to give you guys something that's like where your computer can't run it, because this thing is pretty massive. Have you seen a Corp locomotive? Oh, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the paint job. I don't think I have. I've seen some like GATX, the blue with the white nose, I believe is what they are. I think I've seen a couple of those running around the UP leasers. Corp, I don't believe I have. So here we come into another town, continuing on the main line. Once again, this is supposed to be kind of high desert, northern-ish Arizona, maybe New Mexico. Come here, plenty of cool little canyons, desert canyons with bridges, kind of winding back and forth. As you notice, our main line in spots is single track. You guys could always change that if you want. Got some pretty cool bridges coming down through this canyon. There's going to be more scenery details. Just haven't finished it yet. Then we come in here, and as you can see, the siding swings out wide and back in. This was kind of a thing that the SP and the Santa Fe did sometimes. I don't know if it was to try to squeeze out some more siding length or to have a easier curvature, not so tight. If anybody knows the reasoning behind why they did that, let me know. I just know that they did, and that I threw that in this map. Coming this way. If I zoom out, I just want you to see the craziness of the terrain that I've been making. This was all flat, everything. It was just a flat desert, the color of the earth right there. This is the coal district, so I'll make sure to show you guys that in a sec here. We're making our way that direction. And I like to try to add in little things here and there. Something that you'll notice out in the deserts, even the mountains, is that you can still see some beds periodically of where the railroad used to run, right? So as trains get bigger or whatnot, they would change, they'd make little changes to the route just to not make the curves so tight so you can have greater speeds, or the gradients didn't need to be as steep. So they would reroute sections. And if you look on like a Google Earth or whatnot, you can kind of see that some places out in the desert. So this is supposed to be like the late 1800s, maybe early 1900s, the old routing over this bluff, where now we have the modern, more direct, longer tunnel, not as much elevation gain, I should say, down here. So you can see the side of this, once again, the abandoned rail from back in the day. See some people joined in. Thanks for joining us. If you got any real life railroad questions, throw them in there. I used to be a conductor for the useless Pacific, I mean the Union Pacific. Sorry. Worked Cajon Pass was probably the time I spent the most. But I did work in West Colton quite a bit. I did go on the Yuma subdivision, the Alhambra subdivision, the LA subdivision, even the SEMA subdivision. So, alright, so over here, I'm thinking about putting maybe a little short line that comes down to Desertville. Maybe have a little bit of farming where you can get some grain out of here. But I haven't done that yet. Like I said, I'm still working on this map. It's in the works. This I kind of wanted to theme off of like a Royal Gorge, which you could find in Colorado. Something where you're gaining elevation through a really cool, tight canyon. I've actually been through here on a train. That was pretty sweet. So climbs up, climbs up. There'll be a lot more scenery and detail. Like I said, I'm just taking my time. Then we get up to the mountain district. So as you can see, you can see where the river will be. I will put some water texture to make it look like it's running. Trees, rocks, all that good stuff to make it look more realistic. So then we get up here into this mountain district, and this is supposed to be like Colorado. You know, a lot of mines up in Colorado. So there will be a coal mine that branches off, runs up this canyon, and loads up here. Okay, it'll come down, and then we will come into, this will be the coal train hub, basically. We got several mines, coal mines, that will feed into this yard. They'll all feed into here, or I'll put one at the other end, and all coal trains will load up out of here and go their separate directions. We're going to have coal trains going out that direction. We're going to have coal trains going down this way to the Salt Flat mine, and probably coal trains going even more east of this than that. So I'll show you what I got so far. Let's check the questions in the chat. Central Oregon Pacific is a short line railroad. Correct. And Cop Turn, explain Genesee and Wyoming, color schemes. Yep. I almost hired out for the Genesee and Wyoming. I was trying to for a bit. But sometimes life takes you different directions, you know? So, never did. Here's coal mine number 1. Like I said, there'll be more details. So, you'll come up out of the yard, probably with, 15, 20 cars. Go up there, load up, come down, put it in. And then something I really wanted to do was, I remember seeing pictures of a Rio Grande local from, I want to say the 60s or 70s. It was like a GP30. And they were going up to a coal mine, but it had switchbacks to it. So I was like, hey, that would be super cool. So this is the switchbacks. You pull up. I gave you a lot of room in case you want to have a decent train. So I'll route it to where you come up to this, and then you back out of here, and then you go up this direction. So you got to switch back. And it climbs all the way up. You even got a bridge. It's all heavily treed in. Another bridge. And then you climb all the way up to this coal mine where you will load, and then you will bring it back down, do the switchback, pull up, and then come down this way into the yard. So, something I threw in there that I haven't done before but thought would be really neat. So, I think it'll work out pretty good. So we got our main line, it's double tracked up here. Going through the mountains. This will have water, there'll be some more vegetation, so it's not going to be so bare. Just haven't gotten to it yet. We'll have another coal mine over here. Just got one building for now. Then we got our lake, which is where this river slash stream flows from. And we got a big mountain over there. We got an even bigger mountain over here. A little bit of snow. So now we're all the way to the other side of the map. This part's pretty cool. I took this from, probably the region around Kingsman, Arizona. You have main lines that split up, and they're directional. So as you can see, we got the southbound track here, we got the northbound track here. So let's go down the southbound track first. Got this awesome gulch, ravine, valley, canyon, whatever you want to call it right here. I also use some classified track so that you can have more realistic speeds. For instance, this downhill track is 30 miles an hour. So your trains won't be doing 60 miles an hour down this thing because they would not do that in real life. They're going down a mountain. So we come around and then I got signals placed pretty often so we can keep the flow of traffic going. And then you get down here. And then they meet back up right here. We got a industry coming off right here. Kind of like a cement plant or a quarry or something. And then we'll probably build a yard in between these two cities so then we can service the two. And we can haul out the stone onto the mainline trains from the yard. And then we got the far to the east coast. So this will be the portal if you were to be going to the east coast. Okay. Now let's go up the northbound track here. Not as steep in most sections. So that we can keep the trains moving. Comes along this way. So our southbound track goes all the way on that side of the canyon. Got this cool bridge, got some tunnels. This kind of reminds me of like Upper Tehachapi. There's a lot of short tunnels towards the top. So we are just moving along and then the rail joins back up here. So yeah, I took a lot of different themes from Western railroads or railroad routes and just tried to apply it. And then, like I said, there's plenty of places to add more cities. Put one here, put some out here. There's plenty of places to add more industry, right? I mean, you can go back to one of these canyons to load up iron ore or whatever. So I'll probably leave these the way they are. Then you guys can do whatever you want. So, alright, well, let's shift gears a little bit. I want to go check on what I got going on in my Railroad Paradise map. Haven't gotten a whole lot of questions coming in, but that's totally fine. We're just hanging out. I'd be doing the same thing either way. I'm just trying to save this thing is tough. This map is so big. That's another reason why I'm keeping it kind of simple, is because if I really started tricking it out with industries and crazy scenery and this, that, and the other, then no one will ever be able to play it. My computer's running a little slow right now. There it is. It's giving me an alert because I don't have something that it wants. Guess what? I don't care. Let me start. Let's go down here. See if we can find the issue. I took out a pack and it's giving me a message saying I can't play it, but I know I can play it because I did. Oh, here it is. Sometimes you just gotta look. Alright, here we go. Cop turn, the map is looking good. I like the range of topography. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's taking a lot of effort, but you know, I made some pretty highly detailed maps lately. But they didn't have. I want a map where it has realistic main lines in the sense of like the length of them. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish with this new map I just showed you guys. Is, you know, I want to be able to have, you know, 100 trains running. Like, that sounds ridiculous, but um, I think it'd be fun over a long time. Because one thing I like to do is I like to save rail cars. I like to save all the locomotives I use over time so that you can kind of see what you've progressed through. So it's really fun in that way. Um, yeah. Alright, let's go to the questions. Do you have to go to college to become an engineer? No, you don't. College is obviously a plus for the railroad. So you send in your resume, and if you have even a 2-year degree, that's better than a high school diploma. But what they're really looking for is like hands-on experience. Construction is good, military is good. Working around any kind of heavy equipment and having to deal with any kind of safety laws. And what they're looking for is safety. I want to make sure you're safe, that you're responsible, among a lot of other things. Um, but there are certain trades that will give you a better chance at getting hired for the railroad, but no, it's not required. You could technically work at Starbucks right out of high school, and then after a few months, you can hire out for the railroad. They might not be very likely to pick you, but it is possible. Comes to being a manager, yeah, most of the time you need to have a college degree to be a manager. I know of instances where you didn't have to have a college degree to be a manager. But it's pretty much a given. Those people who did not have a college degree were former engineers, right? So they went from being an engineer to being a manager. So that's something to keep in mind, is if you're looking to go into management right off the bat, then yeah, you'll want to at least have a 2-year degree, ideally a 4. So you don't want any DUIs, okay? You don't want any kind of felonies, stuff like that. They take that stuff very seriously. Not to say that, you know, if you committed a felony 20, 30 years ago, that it wouldn't give you a chance, but, you know, they're pretty picky most of the time, especially depending on the location. Alright, so these towns are really starting to grow big time. Let's see what's going on up rail. It is also very, I think, important if you know somebody at the railroad so that you can get their, I forget what they called it. They can basically, you can use their name as a reference. That's the word. And that will help you get hired or help you have a higher chance of getting hired if you have a reference from somebody that works there already, because then, you know, they're bringing someone in-house and you should have a better idea of what the job entails and should have a better idea of everything about it than someone from off the street. So yes, it helps quite a bit. Pretty quiet down here. Looks like we got 2 stack trains. We got 1 waiting. I made some SD40Rs. SP, of course. Came out pretty good. I also made some short nose SP units because the regular pack just comes with the snoot nose, so I changed the old Rio Grande tunnel motor to SP paint. Looks like we got a coal train right here. And we got a freight going up. Looks like we might be getting to close to full capacity when it comes to the route and the sidings. That's why I'm making this new map, is because it allows you to have a lot more mainline trains, which I think is more fun. Got a manifest train right here. Alright, let's go to the questions. Looks like we got one. Is it better to be a conductor to an engineer? I think it's personal preference. I know a lot of people who became an engineer as soon as possible, and I know a lot of people who purposely stayed as a conductor. Um, Personally, I liked engineers way better in my opinion. I never became a locomotive engineer. I did run some trains and I found it to be way better in my just because I grew up like racing motocross and stuff like that, so operating, right, is just more fun to me than being on the radio, having to be outside in all different types of weather. When you're working in bad places, it's not so great to be a conductor because you're out on the ground dealing with that stuff most of the time. Um, yeah, but as an engineer, in a lot of ways, it comes with more responsibility. There's plenty of responsibility on a conductor most of the time, but it's just personal preference. Like I said, I would have loved to just be an engineer. That would be great. I had no problem with running a train, and yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Fortunately, wasn't able to stay around long enough to become an engineer. But it was fun just getting the opportunities to run a train. So, let's see what we got here. Yep, we got trains stopped everywhere. Hey, Go Rodeo is live again today. Nice to see you, man. Hey, thanks for joining in. I appreciate it. Got any railroad questions there, Brandon? Throw them in the chat. Even if you think they're dumb ones, I'll answer it. No question is a dumb question when it comes to these things. Alright, well, we're not totally jammed up, so that's cool. Alright, let's go check out the comments. If you don't like to be still, conductor is better. Yep. Because you actually get to move around. Yep, that's one good part of it. And yes, that's one thing I did not mention, is that being a conductor is a mandatory step to becoming an engineer, like Cop Turn just said in the chat. Um, yeah, it's mandatory. And depending where you're at, it could take you a while to become an engineer. Like where I was at in Southern California, nobody really retires because the cost of living is so high. So you really only get the opportunity to go to engine service, as they call it, or to become a locomotive engineer as people retire at this point. So when people don't really retire, then you don't really get the opportunity. So it kind of sucks. So like if I was still there right now, so let's see, if I was still at the railroad, I'd be almost in my 5th year, and I still would be a conductor, and I'd still probably be doing the same exact thing, and my seniority wouldn't have really got me anywhere. But if you were to go, let's say, hire out in like Colorado or Arizona, somewhere where it's the cost of living is a little cheaper, then you're going to get people who are going to retire earlier, which is going to open the door for you becoming an engineer sooner. I almost had the chance to swap to go to Colorado for the Union Pacific, and as soon as I got there, I pretty much would have gone into engine service if I wanted to. So there is something to think about right there. I would hate to be a conductor in the winter months here in Minnesota. It gets a little chilly. Yeah, I live in Montana, and I would not want to be a conductor right now. It's been like 15 degrees for the last week during the day, and I think it equally sucks during the summer, like where I was working, where it's 115 degrees. It's hard to stay hydrated in that kind of environment. Conductor, it took me 9 years to go from hire to engineer qualified. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It didn't used to be that way. My dad hired out as a switchman for the Southern Pacific in early 1995, and by 1998 he was a qualified engineer. So, it's the railroad isn't what it used to be, to say the least. I mean, just all the things my dad has seen in his day, right? SP to UP, there's no DPUs, there was no really any, I mean, you look at the locomotives, there's all SD40s and stuff like that for the most part. They had a few, Dash 9s here and there, some more modern power, but there's been a whole lot of changes. And now he has to use EMS, which is energy management system, where the train basically runs itself. And he has to do that on, like, I believe 80 or 85% of his route. The only time he actually operates the train is when that doesn't work, or if he's going up and down heavy grade territory. So a lot of things have changed, and not for the better. And it's not really fun anymore because they got inward facing cameras in the cabs. Management isn't there to help you, that's for sure, or at least most of them. I can't say that all the managers are bad, but there's just so much that comes with it now that's not fun. I definitely would have liked to have railroaded in my dad's era when he started out, that's for sure. During my work trips to Cali, it was usually July, August when we ride, easily 100 plus, Napa Valley. Still got hot enough in the direct sun to cause blisters if you touch barehanded. Oh yeah, yep. And when you're walking around in West Colton, you're in between tracks, it's just hot iron, just baking. There's no wind. It's not enjoyable. I'll say that. Portola, California is a good place to get hired. Not familiar with that. Is it a short line or what's down there? I was all Southern California, so I don't know much more about the railroad scene unless it's, Bakersfield South. Let's see what's going on over here. Whoa, look at all these roads. Did the city shrink or something? There's a lot of empty roads. Let's check the stats here. Overview. Oh yes, they did shrink a lot. That looks crazy. uh, Whoopsie. What about, is this one shrunk? A little bit, but it's on the it's rebounding a little bit. I just figured I'd make some passenger trains, but do something different. So we got, I don't even know what railroad this is. GM and O. And then we got some modern black and white passenger cars. I was hoping there was a cab view on that one. Let's see. Portola does not have a pool anymore. It is covered from Roseville now. That's by Reno. Portola is where the Western Pacific used to cross the Sierras. It is now UP's Canyon sub. Ah, fun fact. It would be really neat, in my opinion, to be able to travel around the country and check out the different subdivisions, like maybe take a train both ways on a certain subdivision just for fun. Maybe turn that into a TV show or a YouTube channel or something. Oh, what happened? Ah, I see what's going on here. That's unfortunate. I didn't think that one through. Yeah. Cities need some growth. Yes, they do. Gulf, Mobile, and Ohio became part of the Illinois Central System. Hey, fun fact. See, that's what's cool about these is we get to learn some stuff from each other. All right, so let me check out what's going on down here first. So we got another train coming up the hill. So let's see here. I might have to cheat. I think I'm gonna cheat. Oh, it's empty. We're gonna cheat. Boom. Problem solved. So I need to fix that. So I think what I'll do is I'll run a track, 3 main lines out to here so we can clear up. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll give it some good room. So I'll run it all the way out to here. Looks like a UP move, LOL. Too long of a train, too short of a sidings, LOL. Yes, exactly. We're running this like the UP. Why? Because that's all I know, I can only blame the people who taught me. So, I suck because of that. There it is. Look at that. That looks like some UP track work right there. So let's delete a couple of these, and let's do that. Let's not make it look so bad. Derpity derp. Rob Schneider. Derpity derp. Oh, cop turn. I think the last time we were talking on here, you were on the Phoenix? You're going down the Phoenix? Or was that somebody else? I can't remember. I have a poor memory, so forgive me. Let's see. So if you notice what I do here, I use concrete track for all new track work, except if it's in like a yard. The reason why I do this is so that I can see as the gameplay progresses the changes that I've made. So it just makes it like, okay, I remember when this was only double track and this was that and the other, because you can tell the difference between your original wood ties and your new concrete ties. So yeah, just something kind of fun to do. I highly recommend it. Conductor NorCal / Oregon. Okay, I was way off. And were you Santa Fe or UP? I can't remember. Not because I don't care, just because I whacked my head a few too many times on a dirt bike. Alright, so now we're gonna do this. And then we want to make this look realistic. So I'll add some waypoint signals just to make it look good. Alright, this is one thing that really bugs me sometimes. So this is what we're gonna do. The routing sometimes really can get funky. So you gotta add signals sometimes to kick routes back over. Now it wants to go into the yard. No, that's not happening. No, sir. This is where you'd want to use a waypoint signal to keep it on a certain couple tracks. I didn't really build it that way, and that'd be a lot of work to change the route. So at this point, we're just gonna do all this fun stuff. No, we don't want to go through parked cars. That's how you kill people. You can ask the UP, hence a couple months ago. Whammo. Whoa, wrong one. There we go. Got it. Suggestion to keep the switches wood versus tie. I've seen wood tie switches and concrete main lines many times. Yeah. I've thought about that. Just depends. I'm not too much of a stickler on that. But it would be more realistic for sure. So I might, now that you reminded me, I might actually do that. Hey, cop turn! Uncle Pete, oh boy. I bet you're having fun right now. Whoa, look at that. That's some old school UP track right there. It's good, 5 miles an hour. John Cena. Alright, so everything looks like it should now. So, we shouldn't have that problem in the future. Weird AI pathfinding. Normally games like this, the AI picks the shortest path. Yeah, I've noticed this issue a few times. It's just something you really gotta mess with, ultimately. But I've never been in a situation in this game where I couldn't figure out a loophole to try to get what I want when it came to the routing. So, 44 miles an hour, that's pretty good going up a hill. I had $1 for every time I did 44 miles an hour up a grade, I wouldn't have $1. Got a coal train. And then we got this one that just came up. Here's something I don't understand. Why? Why are these two empty and the rest of the train's loaded? That's what I don't understand. Alright, so that one is about to go south, hopefully. Because we got some trains backing up going westbound. Mom's Maniacs. Do you have any model trains? I do. I have quite a bit of HO stuff left over from when I was younger. Actually just got it up here to my place in Montana. And the church I go to is actually setting up a little model train layout. So that's kind of cool. I'll definitely have to help them with that. Get rid of this too. That looks kind of funky. So as you can see, I added more track. This was actually the same scenario that just happened up the hill. Wasn't long enough, so I had to build a longer yard track. So, yeah, uphill grades are usually 15 to 25 if you're lucky in my experience. Yep, I had the same experience. Cajon Pass, Beaumont Hill, those were my heavy grade territories. And yeah, I'd say between 16 and 18 was pretty average. A few times you do below, 12, 11, 12. Sometimes you do low 20s. It was definitely more frequent to go faster up these hills before precision scheduled railroading, that's for sure. Now everything grinds until it breaks. Alright, let's go back to the populated area. The area I moved from, because I like the woods. Alright, so here's the other coal train, so it's going to get loaded up. I changed the weights of my rail cars in this game by going into the files. So these are 70-ton cars. So I think they were rated at 20 tons, like actual game weight in the file. And I was like, you know what, these coal trains on this game are way too light. So I went in there and I've been changing the files to the realistic weights of whatever rail car it actually is. So I've been going in there and changing, a lot of these freight cars mods, they're only like 20 to 30 tons. So I've been changing them, just depending on what they are. So I changed the 100-ton coal cars to 100 tons. So now there'll be a lot more realistic train weights also. Something that I've been wanting to do in this game for a while, and I figured it out and I did it. And it's definitely a more fun experience because you got to use the appropriate amount of locomotives now for certain types of trains. So that's nice. My grandfather ran a train once, SD60 leading, Oakway, Santa Fe C30-7 behind, 12 miles an hour up a hill, 6 amps max in the motors. He was in run 8 the whole route. Engineer told him any slower and they'd need to stop and split the train for the hill. Yeah, typically, so we have a lot of AC units now. Maybe Cop Turner can attest to this. The AC units, you can pretty much, you can run them down until they stall. I mean, if you're doing 3 miles an hour up a hill, you can just keep it there. But it seems like the older DC units, usually about 8 miles an hour or less, they'd want you to stop because you could risk burning them up or just causing some damage, some mechanical failures, stuff like that. That's what I heard from most engineers. Others said that it didn't really matter, so it's hard to say. But that's what I was told mainly, was if you got DC locomotives at about 8 miles an hour, you need to bring it to a stop, or else you're going to cause some damage to them. Which I think with modern day morale, no one would care. So these cities are exploding. Let's see, charts. Yes, they're doing very well. Very well. Okay, so we're having one problem on one side and the opposite problem on the other. These cities are getting huge. The other ones, not so much. Del Norte Short Lines. Hello, how's it going? Today's power from 2400 amps max to the motors for new AC units. Cop turn. DC locomotives have to be stopped under 5. Starts causing rail burns. Yes, I think that's what it was. But I was told where I was at about 8. Maybe that was just an excuse so they can stall out or something. I don't know, but that's what I was told. And you know, we didn't really have too many DC units being used besides like SD70s here and there. They really started phasing everything out once I got out of training, and within really the first 4 months they started putting everything in the storage. How's the passenger? They could be more full. I like how the cities are forming in between the rail. That's cool. Hey, 1. Yay. Do this little outcropping out here. Hey, 2. Wow. Subdivision specific, probably. Yeah, I'm sure it was. I just remember telling me, like, yeah, you know, DC units, 8 miles an hour, blah, blah, blah. But I'll keep going if you want me to. And I was like, yeah, I don't care. Burn it up. Get it to the top of the hill. Got our grain mill here. So I think what we're going to start doing is I need to create a local to come out here. Bethlehem. Okay. Yeah, we're going to do it right now. So let's do that. Let's do some SD9s, but I'm only using... where you at, boy? These ones. I forget what they call it on either end, but they got these little points on each end, and that was the final kind of version of these things. Alright, we'll get some grain going. This 4750 hopper reskin pack is pretty sweet, not gonna lie. We're gonna use some BNSF grain cars, even though it's 1986. Yep. And we don't want to make it too long, but we want to be able to get something out of it. Full send it till it dies. Yep, pretty much. I mean, the UP obviously doesn't care about their power anymore, so why should I? New grain elevator in the smaller cities to create traffic for growth. I just kind of felt like putting a farm out here. Something I like to do in most of my maps is just have some cool custom kind of farming industries of some sort. I don't really like to use the typical industries anymore. I like using the freestyle with whatever cargo and then using assets to create something that's more custom. Yeah, man, these towns are growing. Passengers, we could certainly have more passengers, but that's alright. This map will be fun just to try to grow cities. That's something I haven't done in a while, is just trying to like build these things up as much as I could. Where is my new map I'm working on? That's more to just run a crazy amount of freight from one end to the other. Hey, someone's playing Battlefield a lot right now. Got the coal train coming in. Good stuff. I like the speed it's going, that's pretty realistic. Cop turn, what year did you hire out if you're still in the chat? Alright, so it seems like the bottleneck of this map is right here, which is understandable. This is the longest section of single track. That's a long tunnel. Look at him. 16. Yeah, buddy. Cop turn, hired out in 13 August, right on. So do you go up towards Shasta, or do you go up towards Donner? What's your territory? Up towards Shasta looks like a pretty sweet run. Hey, a coal mine, what's up? I don't need you here. Be gone. Yep, we're backed up. Well, this is working out good. This local can now not use the main line to get its stuff done. Okay, we got one train waiting for one's going up. One thing I'm trying out on my new map is what I'm doing is if we got a grade, this is just a waypoint signal, so I'm using it for looks, but I put a real signal on this side. So I'll place one of these guys down, like so. But on the downhill side of the siding, right, I keep a waypoint, but what this does is this keeps any kind of traffic going up the hill moving since it's a slower traffic, so it kind of balances it out. So something I'm going to try out. We'll see how it works on the new map. Once I get it all done, then I will start playing that, and that will take me a long time to get bored of, I think. We got the second coal train rolling down. Should see if the workshop got tunnel portal models. Make your own Moffat tunnel. Yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to make the Tennessee Pass at some point. I just don't know. I just don't know what kind of effort I want to put into that. I want to make the SEMA sub coming out with a model railroad this Friday, so check that out. It's smaller, but it's fun, and you guys can always add on to it. So that'll be coming out soon. Let's see. Cop Turn worked from Dunsmuir North for years, right by Shasta. Work in Eugene now. How much money is the game? I think it's about 40 bucks. Yeah, Cop Turn, just put that on there. Definitely recommend this game, especially if you're into the railroad side of things. This isn't like a railroad based game, at least it doesn't seem like it. So if you're into the railroad side of things, I've really put an emphasis on it. So I got a lot of these maps that are more tailored towards, guys like us who want to get this out of the game. So definitely make sure to check out some of the stuff I got going on, and I think you would really enjoy it, along with it being a solid game. Definitely, this is probably my favorite um, builder game or world game or whatever you want to call it. And then Run 8 Train Simulator is my favorite simulator because it's by far the most realistic. Yeah, working up by Shasta and Dunsmuir, that would be pretty cool. Sure, during the winter is a bit of a headache, but that's some real mountain railroading up there. That's one thing I didn't really get to do is any kind of I mean, it's not a huge deal, but any kind of like real old school railroading or like mountain railroading. Everything I was doing was, yeah, we had steep grades and all this and that, but you're always in the city and there's always a freeway and you just never felt like you were out there. So, I love the countryside. I didn't get to do too much of that, unfortunately. So, it looks like we have a lot. We need to start moving freight. We need to try to alleviate the bottlenecks on the west side of the grate because over here it's perfectly open. Oh my gosh, this town is bad. Look at that. That's interesting. Typically they don't drop out that much. Hey, look, it's Los Angeles. No one's going anywhere. So I think we need some more roads to decongest this a bit. So let's do that and see if it helps. Because our buses can't get around. Everything's so jam-packed. Here's our train museum train, I guess you could say. It's functional. We're in the hole, big time, but who cares? I created a railroad museum on this map because I've just always wanted to do that. So this is where the actual railroad museum line splits off. Got some old school signals. We got a little siding just in case we had enough passengers at some point to have several passenger trains. And then you come up to here We have all the old equipment, passenger and freight. And over here in town, we have all the old diesels, old steam. I like how they're all running, you know, keeping the air quality nice and clean. So yeah, kind of a cool thing. And then I went to the game and I changed all the paint of the standard diesel locomotives. I changed it to Goat Rodeo Gaming stuff. But I made it look like it painted over what it originally was as well. So it looks kind of cool. So from here on out in the future, I'll use, if I have a short line on any of my maps, it'll be the Goat Rodeo Gaming equipment as the locomotives. Just something different to do. I use the same yellow as our profile picture, and then with black. Let's see, cup turn 2 to 2.5% with sharp turns. Okay, yeah. I think Beaumont Hill 2%. And then main track 1 and 2 on the Cajon was 2.2 with some sharp turns. Probably nothing like Shasta. I can imagine that really affects your uphill speed, but I'm sure it helps keep you under control going down as well. How many miles is that grade? Uh, let's say, because obviously it starts well below Dunsmuir. From what I remember, all the way to the top. What is the mileage on that? I'd be very curious. So I think the Cone Pass was probably the longest grade we had at 2.2, and it was probably about 25 miles. Reminds me of Watco paint, WAMX markings. Yeah, that does actually. I'm glad you pointed that out. That definitely stands out. It looks like Watco, but with more of a neon yellow. 'Cause it's Go Rodeo. You know, something that might help, and I had a suggestion about this. Let's try it out, shall we? So we're gonna put a signal, and then we're gonna put a signal like right there. So since they're spaced out in between, it shouldn't cause two trains to go nose to nose, but it should keep several trains going the same direction while we have multiple trains that are backed up going the same direction. So let's see if that works. Yep, so far so good. So this will help alleviate the traffic, right? So if you have a train, if you have three trains backed up down here with one at the top, once the rear end of, let's say, a northbound train gets past this, then the next train will start coming up behind it. But since they are pointing in at each other and there's some space, then you won't get a train going nose to nose. So Reading to Dunsmuir, 50 miles, 1%. Oh, it's only 1% going up to there. I thought it was steeper than that. It looked like it. But 50 miles is pretty significant, though. I'm sure with the single track and all that, that 50 miles takes a while to cover distance. Yeah, it would have really been cool to go up through there in the SP days. I think that would have been really sweet. .25% Dunsmuir to Grass Lake, 50 miles. Yep, that's impressive. All single track sightings from what I saw. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Grass Lake to Klamath Falls, 50 miles, 1%. Dang, so it's 150 miles of grade. So impressed how engineers back in the day figured all that out and were able to pick routes up through these canyons. Like, geez, where I live here in Montana, half the people can't even drive on snow anymore. Alright, we got a coal train. Let's see if it's fully loaded, and then I want to check the weight on this. It is fully loaded. Sweet. See, we got mid-train. Mid-train helpers here. Because, you know, having 10 units on the head end would look kind of stupid. And it's not possible, because it would be over drawbar. The coupler's couldn't handle it. Almost 12,000 tons. A little over a mile. I'd say that's very realistic, because these are 70-ton cars. I think the coal trains I used to get were about a mile long, but they had 100-ton cars, and they were about 14 to 15,000 tons. So, yeah, definitely changing the weights on these cars has made the gameplay, in my opinion, a lot better. For someone who likes realism, I should say. I understand the long smooth grades are almost worse than a short steep grade. Is that true? I don't know. I mean the long smoother grades, I guess like a 1%. You know, you might be using the air brakes or whatnot, or the dynamics for a longer period of time, so I guess you technically have a better chance of them failing or having an issue. But, you know, the short steep grades, they could be sketchy too, because if you do have an issue from the very get-go, then you better figure it out quick. I have two model railroad names, are malfunction functional and malfunction functional in the Pacific Pine. I like the malfunction functional. Copter 2% down to Eugene, 100 miles. Dang, that's some elevation gain right there. All 3 bays yet? Rapid discharge or Bethcons? I think these are 3 bays. And cop turn answering that same question about longer, smoother grades versus short, steep ones. Longer grades are more difficult. However, short, steep grades often cause engineers to break their trains. Yeah. Yep. Especially engineers these days, they're not nearly as good as they used to be. I mean, there's some good young engineers, but I don't know, I just haven't. Whenever I worked with like an old SP guy or whatever, like, man, they were so good. So good. I'm sure Copturn can attest to that, working up there in Dunsmuir and all that. They just know how to run a train. They've been there, done that. I made the weathering over time on these SD40Rs to become more dark and like smudged. Kind of like what you would see with the SP units that went through Tehachapi and all that. Malfunction Junction. Okay, that's still a good name. That's still a good name. I like it. this train waiting for this stack train to get by. Let's go back over here. 100. Nice. Got the steel mill job working. Top turn engineers have become EMS monitors. Yes. 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 That's the perfect way of describing it. Modern day engineers don't seem to run with any kind of feel. Okay. You can feel what the train's doing if you know how to be honed into that or pay attention to that. Copter might be able to have a better explanation of that, but basically you can feel the train moving around and doing its thing, and a good engineer can translate those feelings into running the train correctly, whether it's using more air, whether it's using dynamics, whether it's both, whether it's this, that, or the other. Um, it's a lost skill, and these younger engineers rely heavily on dynamics, and yeah, they're just rigid, and they don't run track speed because they're afraid to run the train how it could be ran, so they often err on the side of caution. And yeah, it's just there's a big difference between your typical new era engineer and some old SP guy. Big difference. Getting some dirt on these. Alright, we'll see you later. Del Norte short lines. Think about picking up this game, I would highly suggest it. That's our stack train. Got another one coming down. Cop turn, they teach you to be scared to use air brakes. Yes, that is 100% true, and I don't understand why. I think, I had an engineer explain it to me actually, now that I remember. There was a period where, in the mid 2000s, and you might have been told this as well, there's a period in the mid 2000s where they taught engineers to be heavily use dynamics. To use dynamics all the time. Don't use air brakes unless you really need them. Which there's plenty of new engineers that use air brakes, but not in the ways that they should. And that was because at the time I think they thought that using heavy dynamics saved fuel, saved on diesel, which how much did it actually do that, if any, right? I mean, you're using more dynamics, so you're using probably more fuel. And it was probably because a lot of the old SP engineers and stuff like that, they would do a lot of stretch braking, right? So you're, giving the train a minimum set, you're stretching it out, so the slack is stretched out, and a lot of times you're throttling up to keep the train moving. And they would do this even on flat ground, going into sidings and stuff, just to come in to the sidings at speed. And because it was important back then for them to get in and out of sidings. And you got harassed if you sucked because you're costing people time, right? People wanted to get the train from point A to point B as fast as they could. The dispatchers felt the same way for the most part. So, yeah, my explanation was from some of them is that they were taught for a long time to use heavy dynamics to save on fuel. Because of these older techniques, maybe they felt that, that was causing them to not save on fuel. And then now we have a bunch of engineers that are, yeah, they're afraid to use the air. They're kind of afraid to run a train just in general. They're very cautious. And yeah, it just kind of sucks. I was lucky enough to, or the trains that I ran here and there, I was with some good engineers that still ran a train how they're supposed to be run, and with these older techniques, right? This older mentality, and they made me run track speed the whole time, whether we're going up, down, you name it. It was like, okay, get back up to speed, or you better get back down. And honestly, it's a lot more fun doing it that way. It's a challenge, and it's entertaining, and it keeps your mind in the game. Where you run it the other way, I found it easier to get complacent or to lose focus, and that's bad. Air brakes are much more effective than dynamic brakes, I think, Brandon. Yeah, they are. I mean, there used to be a saying, air brakes are free. You know, they're there all the time. Even if you got, there's plenty of rail cars in the train that their brake shoes are worn out, or, maybe their brakes barely work at all, but guess what? There's, 50 other cars where their brakes work just fine. So, yeah, you might as well just use those, because guess what? Dynamics, they fail all the time, and especially with how poorly maintained these locomotives are these days. Good engineer keeping the slack out of the train. Exactly. There's obviously more situations where stretch braking helps than just coming in and out of sidings or cresting over a grade and going down grade. There's a lot of up and down territories on these routes, and you can use the stretch braking to keep it from running in on you or stretching out when you're going through these highs and lows, kind of dips in the terrain. Let's say you're going across valleys or whatnot, that even small ones can cause some run-in slack or some stretch. And these good engineers that knew how to stretch brake, you wouldn't feel one bump the whole trip. You can go 250 miles and not feel a darn thing. It's perfectly smooth. So, it'd be nice if we can get back to that, but to be honest, right now they're trying to get rid of engineers, so I wouldn't count on it. I've seen engineers from different areas. They certainly run things different. Laugh loud. Old school engineers don't care what it takes to get the job done. New ones, as you said, are scared. Yeah, and it does matter where I think an engineer learned, right? Like, I remember when I was in training, we had an old school UP engineer. Good guy. Um, he was a really good engineer, stretch braking, all that stuff. And then we had another trainer who he was an engineer out in the Midwest, so it was always flat. So he didn't even know what stretch braking was because they basically just use dynamics out there in the Midwest because it's so flat. So, and I was kind of like, even as a student, my jaw dropped a little bit when that Midwestern engineer wondered what stretch braking was. And I think my instructor was a little bit baffled at that as well. But yeah, pretty interesting. So one thing I did, guys, here's a little tip, is if you go into these 5 packs for these stack trains, so these came as 90 tons, this 5 pack, then it was 80, then it was 70. So what I did is I lowered it to 50 for the 5 pack, 40 tons for the 4, 30 for the 3, and that made the intermodal train weights way more realistic. So we got a mile long intermodal train here, pretty much fully loaded, and it's 8,600 tons. That's much more realistic than before, where if you had a mile long loaded intermodal train on this game, it was like, I think, 14,000 tons or something ridiculous like that. So that was pretty neat. Pretty neat, pretty neat. Well, guys, I've been on here for a little while now. Probably gonna get off here in a few minutes. If you guys would like the video and share it with whoever you think might enjoy it, or if you're not subscribed, if you could subscribe, that'd be great. If you'd like to see more of this Q&A, well, I kind of just game, let me know in the comments. I'll do this again. This week was pretty busy, so apologize for not being able to get on more. Should be a video dropping on Friday of the model train route that I will be uploading on Friday as well. So keep an eye out for that. And definitely check out the model railroad map for me and let me know what you think. So thanks guys once again. Thanks for all the support. We will talk to you later.